Good morning, good evening, good day, everyone. Welcome to AI Daily News. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights, where we rate those news essential, important, and optional, helping you navigate through this avalanche of AI news that comes at you every day. I have John, Ankaj from our team, and a special guest, Kevin Petrie. Kevin is the Vice President of Research with BARC, specializing in data layers and AI, and specifically Gen AI. And he has always great angles to present to our listeners. Hey, Paul, and Paul is just joined us. We have a set of interesting articles at the very different layers like software, hardware optimizations, use cases. And let's start with the first one, please, Ankash.
Sure. Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from Sakna AI, and it talks about the AI CUDA engineer, which is doing agentic CUDA kernel discovery, optimization, and composition.
Yes, so this was assigned to me. So this is Sakana, if you remember, is a Japanese company that raised about $200 million at the last valuation of 1.5 billion. The approach is really streamline the training and the like and get of the LLMs and get it as efficient as possible. That is what they are working on. And this CUDA engineer is essentially a demonstration. So CUDAs are subroutines, if you will, that can be canned to parallelize the LLM a little better at different levels of its work that it's doing. So they have created a number of canned CUDAs and those little kernels. And so this is very interesting, very important for the people who are training and either post or pre the LLMs, but for our general AI leader may be optional. But Kevin and John, I can be convinced into important because I think this is actually a great optimization. John, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was optional as well. I think this tool to help with CUDA engineers, and obviously CUDA is a big part of the market in terms of interacting with NVIDIA. And but I thought for our AI leader that this particular article was optional.
Okay, Kevin, any objection to that?
No, I agree. I think, and this comment applies to another article we have coming up. I think the majority of AI adopters are not going to be training models themselves. Training is pretty rigorous and intense. They'll take something, they'll fine tune it, or more often they'll feed it their own data through a RAG architecture. And so training improvements are important, but not applicable to the majority of adopters.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you at this stage of the game of AI development, but I do think that at some point a next layer of optimization will be critically important for differentiation. And I think there will be insourcing of these mechanisms after the initial experimentation is done. So I think it will become more and more important at this level, but probably not now.
Yeah, I think, you look at the performance numbers, they're pretty impressive. And I just think that, it's like if you go back in the history, and you know this history better than I do, Luda, you go back in the history of operating systems, right? You put them in place, you figure out, what the functions are that need to be there. And then people start writing lots of optimization routines, in the old days, whether it was around messaging or disk drive usage or, output to a printer. And so I think we're going to see, a lot of tools to take different parts of the semantic operating system and optimize them.
Yeah.
So, I could certainly, when I was thinking about this, the one thing that might make the case for important is that A number of our clients and folks we've talked to for our research are complaining about the cost of inference, and this does directly address that. So, uh, and again, using the operating system stuff as a parallel, certainly people in high performance computing or a lot of industrial computing were willing to go down into, object code, machine code, get certain performance attributes under certain, um,
Right.
under certain conditions. So yeah, if you're in a high performance computing environment or worried about your bill, this becomes a lot more important.
Yeah, Ankash, if you can scroll to the numbers of the performance, maybe we should put it as important for the purpose of the knowledge, right? Look at this. As you all know, within the guts of LLM, there's a lot of matrix multiplication this way, right? So it's a lot of it, and here they are demonstrating 58x performance improvement because they're parallelizing it, and as much as they can, right, at this level. So this is massive in terms of inference cost reduction. So I mean, the AI leaders need to know about it, or at least need to understand which questions to ask. So I might suggest we go important. Paul, what do you think?
Optional. This is innovation at the fracking level in the use of oil analogy. So
Okay, optional it is. Let's proceed. Ankash?
Okay, the next one that we, yes, I'm here, Luda. I was speaking on mute.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next one comes from Hugging Face, and it talks about the ultra scale playbook training LLMs on GPU clusters.
It's literally a book. So
Yes.
it's a huge thing. John, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I did look at a bunch of it and also fed it to the models and so forth. So first, to just kind of lay out what this is a very detailed playbook that looks at the nuances of training large language models on GPU clusters. And it covers a lot of different techniques. It covers parallelization, such as data, tensor, pipeline, and context parallelism. It does memory optimization, and it really dives into performance tuning strategies. And so I'm going to give this an overall optional for our leader. If your firm is directly training or fine tuning models, it would be essential. It's if you're trying to evaluate your infrastructure needs at scale, I'd say it was important. But as Kevin was saying, and I agree with, most of the folks are using, they're not doing a lot of tuning or training. So I was between optional and important, but landed on optional.
Yeah, Kevin?
I agree. I agree with John. I think that as with the prior article, one of the key points is that that training and fine tuning, training in particular, is not an endeavor that most adopters are going to undertake. The bigger problem for them to solve is to take these powerful models, or powerful specialized models even better, and apply it to their data, which could require some fine tuning, but initially might just require retrieval augmented generation, where they're enriching the prompts with their own curated, governed, domain-specific data. And so I think that that's a much lower lift than trying to train a model. The real ROI is not going to be training models. It's going to be feeding them your domain-specific data.
Yeah,
So I think optional.
Yeah, I totally agree. However, the smart AI leader shouldn't really look at LLMs as a black box. And this is a very good compendium, if you will, of various things that are going inside the black box that is useful to know for the future of how to deal with it. But I agree, optional. It's a huge thing. Okay.
Yeah, but again, like with the other one, I'm on the fence. I mean, I disagree with Paul a little bit about yeah, if we're going to use the fracking analogy as you did, Paul. I think but it's understanding fracking when you use a lot of natural gas. And if you use a lot of natural gas, maybe you should understand fracking. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
And so
I do, but in the newsletter we'll highlight that this is actually, if you're interested in the mechanics of the what's inside the black box, this is a very cool thing to read, even though
Yeah.
it's long. Paul, any thoughts?
I'll support the group.
Haha. Okay. All right. Optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Figure, and they have launched Helix, which is a vision language action model for journalist humanoid control. So basically, these robots can talk to each other and figure out things now.
Yeah, and it's not that intensive training that is required. Kevin, what did you think about this?
Fascinating and a big important trend. We have across the developed world aging populations, and a lot of aging people are going to live for a while. The cost of healthcare is stratospheric when people get into nursing homes and so forth. And that's underscoring the demographic reality that robot assistance in the home is a compelling, even mandatory business opportunity because we don't have enough workers to take care of the aging populations. My mom's in this camp. I think a lot of families have members that are dealing with that. So it's a cool macro trend. This article didn't really get into that macro trend or talk about compelling use cases. It was more upstream. It was more about advances in robotics using Gen AI that are compelling and interesting, but ultimately optional for the AI leader to understand. I will be very interested to see how corporations that are involved in healthcare take advantage of this stuff in coming years so that people can get some basic tactical assistance in the home. Those would be great use cases, but this particular article did not really dig into that. And I think that AI leaders don't really need to get into this level of nuance about robotics advances.
Well, for manufacturing and logistics, I think this is a breakthrough. It is essential because they're spending a lot of time trying to figure out how robots can actually aid in their operations. So, yeah, but I hear you, Kevin. It's not yet there yet, right, to put it out there for the assembly lines, but close. John, what did you think?
Yeah, I was going to make the case for essential. I think Kevin, I think you observed correctly that there's going to be a lot of need in the home. I just think that for me it was essential for two fundamental reasons. One is that it's just cool. I mean, if you watch these videos, it's mind blowing. I mean, these two robots are talking to each other. They put the ketchup where the ketchup goes. They put the eggs where the eggs go. They don't break the eggs. I mean, if you followed robotics at all, it's amazing, just
Amazing.
as a phenomenon. And I think a lot of times as an AI leader, you have to create excitement about the future possibility about things. And this is a great example of it. And it's it's real and it's here. The second thing is this general thing of being able to take intelligence, embody it in a robot, and have it go into novel environments and make sense of those without having to do pre-training. You're pre-training the large language model, but you're not pre-training them about the physics of how do you pick up an egg carton compared to a pound of sugar.
Yep.
I mean, it is learning that dynamically from the language model. So it's inferring the physics and the interference and a bunch of stuff that's really hard to do in robotics from the language model out. And I think that is profound because the ability for contained intelligence to deal with novelty and in the physical world as well as the symbolic world, I think is very, very, very big, and this is a cool demonstration of that. So for those two reasons, I was going to give it an essential.
Oh, I'm as you know, I'm very much into robotics and would love to support essential. Okay, Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, well said, John. I'm on essential as well for similar reasons. I've been shown anyone who will give me 10 minutes reasoning models. 99.9% of the people I talk with have not seen a reasoning model or OpenAI. So when they see a thinking model, they understand. And I think, John, this visualization of here, two robots in the physical world doing something helps people understand. So in terms of a quick and easy visceral tool to help the visual understanding of the pace of change, I think this is essential for AI leaders.
And the breakthrough
could also
here
add-
is that they used the Gen AI to actually talk to the model so it's a visual action model that they
Yeah, it's so much what we talked about the last 2 years has been, our monkey brains talking to robots. So this is robots doing the robots here. So it's a next level frontier.
next level of iteration. Yes, Kevin, you were going to say something.
I was going to say that my initial reaction was to focus on the use case of home care. There also could be, and this might make it more broadly applicable than I was initially thinking, any company with a warehouse and a logistics angle. I mean, you could see Amazon putting these things to work pretty quickly because you need to have identification of rapidly changing, highly diverse objects.
Yeah,
and you need to move those around.
Yeah.
And that could be more of an immediate use case.
Okay, essentially it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Nature, and it talks about Evo 2, which is the biggest ever AI biology model, which is writing DNA on demand.
Wow, right? John, what did you think?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic model and so forth. I was going to give it optional because there's not a lot of conversation about like the implications of how this thing is used and so forth. But the ability to build models on new data types like this and make sense of in this case the magic of life and DNA is just fantastic. This is something certainly to watch. It's going to directly affect a bunch of healthcare and certain science industries. It's going to indirectly affect the economics of lots of things because, I mean, if you step back and look at it, energy conversion into coherence is best done by biology, not by mechanics. And this, as we develop intelligence more and more, I think we're going to do more biomimicry and more biological manipulation because at the end of the day, it's so much more efficient. And so I think this is setting us down a path of, incredible discovery. But for now, it's going to give it an optional.
Yeah, this is everyday miracles. That the fact that they have this model and it does its wonderful things, it's incredible. But yeah, for the AI leader at the moment is optional in my view. Kevin?
Yeah, I agree. I don't have anything to add there, but do agree that it's optional at this stage.
Okay. All right. Optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from CIO Magazine, and it talks about how Honeywell is transforming with Gen AI.
Yeah, Kevin, and it talks about a data layer. The CIO presented at our conference last year. So she is a very smart lady, and it's a very interesting article. What did you think?
That's great. So ultimately, I think it was optional. It does underscore some really important trends. I like how she emphasized the need for data fundamentals to come first. As a data guy, I'm glad to see that drum being beaten. And I like how she and Honeywell have ambassadors in different business units who identify use cases and then bring them back to sort of a central review committee to figure out what will work, what's going to add value, what's the risk factor, the time frame, and so forth. Ultimately, I felt the article itself, the first half was kind of from 2023 talking about mainstreaming Gen AI, empowering knowledge workers, and so forth. The second half, putting the pieces in place, and thereafter talked more about, okay, here's how you put real processes in place in order to understand what the use cases are, what their merit is, and start to put them into place and figure out the value is. That's great. I would have kind of liked more of that to really help the data leader understand, the AI leader understand where to operationalize these use cases. So ultimately, great trends. Honeywell seems to be doing some great things. This article itself is probably optional.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking important because it's a use case where Gen AI is available to 65,000 workers. They have organizational structures put in place to actually surface and assess and predict value creation for these applications. And this is an interesting case. So I would suggest we consider important. John?
Yeah, I was going to go optional, but I could support important. I think I was kind of disappointed that her presentation that she did for us back in September of last year, I think was much more robust in terms of the impact and economics and so forth than here. I opened this, article very excited because I thought Sheila did a fantastic job explaining both how they did it and what they got from it. But I thought that this particular article, just didn't capture that, and I don't know. I kind of don't know why. I can't. If she told it to us back in September, I can't believe she would stop telling it publicly. I don't know if it was just the editor edited out the good parts or whatever. But I could support important. I was going to go optional, just mostly due to my disappointment. I came in with high expectations.
But it went through legal for sure. That's what the problem was. I think.
Well
Paul,
said.
what do you think?
Yeah, I share all the sentiment they said. I rated important simply because it's a large company, and it's an elephant dancing company that is an exemplar of all these other companies saying we're too big, we're too slow, we can't get anything done, and these guys are going through a breakup and are massive. So I do think from that reason it's be on the radar screen and one of the back pocket, case studies that every AI leader should have 10 to 15 of them. So I think Honeywell falls into that, and I think that falls into one of theirs.
Kevin, okay with important?
Yeah, I think that's fine. It sounds like, was her session at your September conference recorded? That sounds like the essential piece, and maybe I should read that.
Yeah, it was.
Good.
Okay, so we'll put it as important, and let's proceed. Ankash.
Yeah, Kevin, she was fabulous, very articulate. It was really a highlight of I think it was day 2 she was on.
That's great. Yeah, I'd love to see the value metrics in particular.
Okay, the last one that we have for today comes from Rabbit, and it is about Rabbit's Android agent.
Yeah, so you might remember Rabbit came out with a little gizmo in, I think, 23 that you put in your pocket, and now they shifted gears and actually introduced an operating system, if you will, for Android that can do tasks for you. And so these two guys, it's very slow, it's 8 minutes, but if you have time, watch what they could do. It's the latency is quite noticeable, so it doesn't do it very quickly, but it does do it, and it creates files, answers questions, finds things on the web, and then puts it out, like sends it, even though it doesn't know how to share or it wasn't shared before. It does share a file with somebody else and figures it all out. Adds stuff to your grocery list and the like. So very impressive. I thought it was actually important for the AI leader to know that this is happening, and it will go to other operating systems for sure. This is just a trial. So it's a great development, and I thought it was important. What did you think, Kevin?
I feel like I've been Eeyore today. I might say optional. I think that some of the tactical use cases for agents are maybe less compelling than people think, because I think end users might kind of enjoy being able to do some of these things themselves, and it might be less intuitive for the average user to take advantage of agents that do things on their smartphones they'd be doing anyway. So yeah, important trend. I suppose this particular article and video struck me as reinforcing an existing trend and more optional.
Yeah, I'm with Kevin. I mean, I think first of all, the video reminds me of Soviet TV. It's like, it's or some people say I used to be a really dull guy. I mean, the interpretation, the ability to go from their device into an operating system, recognize what's going on. To me, this is just part of a really important trend, which is using the sophistication of semantic interpretation of the LLMs to come to any interface, whether it's a Windows-based interface, object interface, streaming data, whatever. Make sense of, take someone's intent, make sense of the procedural logic necessary to get that done, and whatever the device is, and to be able to walk through in a kind of robotic process automation sense, but with more situational awareness. That's a huge trend. This particular example of it, I don't know. I was pulling for these guys. I was going to go buy one of these things, but I don't know. I just think that, to me, it's poorly marketed. It's interesting, but not enough to reach up to important for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I can be convinced going down to optional, but I feel this is where this layer will be critical for going forward, because you would want certain tasks that you have trained the model and figured out how it works to go autonomously and do it, right? So it's maybe not there yet, but it is certainly a needed innovation, and it probably will become way better than this. Okay, Paul, agree?
Yeah, I think it's capability. I think this is like a lot of things. It's half the bridge, a completed task that's accurately and veracity match my intent is the goal. And some of these examples were too simple. John, I loved your comments on the video. The video was definitely rough.
Oh, the video was tough. I don't know why people do it as the introduction of a product.
I think it's a contrarian thing. It's like a minimalist anyway. It's
No, I just think it's just plain old lazy. I mean, the guy with the nose ring, didn't, wash his hair. The other guy's still got a dirty T-shirt on. I mean, give me a break. I mean, clean up a little, guys.
Not unprecedented.
authenticity, John.
Okay, well, optional it is. All right. Any announcement as we wait for?
Yes, two announcements. At noon Eastern, we have a webinar with Seeker. They're an innovative company that's using their tools to help companies automate and get value of unstructured data and eliminate hallucinations, particularly around applications that are where accuracy is important, like healthcare. And Monday night at our weekly learning lab, Alden from Custom GPT AI is going through a battle of the research AI, open AI research, open research with deep set versus Perplexity and others. So we're going to have a real good discussion on these advanced reasoning model. Who wins? Who's more advanced? So join us for this next two events.
Okay, great. Ankash, do we have a scorecard coming up? Okay.
Yes, Luda.
Okay, so we have, thank you. We have one essential, one important, and the rest were optional. So happy Friday, everyone. Vivek, Ram, who were listening and commenting, really appreciate it. Would want more comments, please, audience. Happy Friday, and we'll see you on Monday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
See you guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
for coming.